What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This here's Legitical Response, where we cover political news, and check this out, y'all.
Supreme Court justices decided 6-3 to throw out a lower court's ruling that allowed a broad interpretation of an Enron-era statute to charge hundreds of defendants in a January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. The High Court decided its use must include proof that defendants tried to tamper with or destroy documents. Only some of the people who violently attacked the Capitol fall into that category.
The majority is saying here is it can't just be walking in and engaging in a riot that stops either a Supreme Court proceeding or a city council meeting, or in this case, the counting of electoral college votes. That it has to be tied to some sort of document destruction.
The defendant who brought the case is former Harrisburg, Pennsylvania police officer Joseph Fisher. His lawyer argued the government is using the obstruction statute as a dragnet. The decision could impact the prosecutions of hundreds of defendants. It could also have implications on some of the charges former President Donald Trump faces in his federal election case.
I will be shocked if Special Counsel Jack Smith does not have court papers ready to say that he can still charge former President Trump with obstruction.
Now, what this actually should say is the Supreme Court looked at this case and found the prosecutors were a bit overzealous when they went out with these charges. Yeah, these people should have never gotten charged with obstruction of an official proceeding, right? This was a law that was put in place due to Enron, right? That was an economic thing, right? Like, these people were destroying records. That's what the whole point of this law was. But I'm glad to see the Supreme Court is actually looking at the law objectively and finding that, yes, a prosecutor, you can't just throw whatever charge out there because you think it applies, right? You can't just do that. You have to actually look at the law, look at case law, look and see what's actually going on. What did this individual actually do? And see if the law applies to this individual. If it doesn't apply, why was this law made up? It was made up for a totally different reason. You can't charge these people with this if the law was made to charge somebody different for doing something totally different, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But these people don't care. They felt like democracy was attacked, y'all. Democracy was attacked. Their democracy was attacked. But we all know that that's not what they mean. Their definition of democracy isn't the Webster's definition of democracy. It's something totally different, something esoteric that nobody really knows what it means when they say, oh, it's a threat to my democracy, right? Like, speaking about that, that's something I wanted to say in the last video and totally forgot. How about the disrespectful question of
President Biden? You have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes.
I mean, really? Are they voting against democracy? No, they're voting for democracy, voting for Webster's definition of democracy. That's what democracy is. When the people get to vote for who represents them, when the people get to vote for whatever, that's democracy. It's not this esoteric BS, your power, or whatever the hell you mean by democracy. Attack on the U.S. Capitol. Democracy, my ass. Come on, get out of here, people. These people are nut jobs. Let's get into the story. The Supreme Court on Friday limited a federal obstruction law that has been used to charge hundreds of Capitol riot defendants as well as former President Donald Trump. The justices ruled 6-3 that the charge of obstructing an official proceeding enacted in 2002 in response to the financial scandal that brought down Enron Corp must include proof that defendants tried to tamper with or destroy documents. Only some of the people who violently attacked the Capitol on January 6, 2021 fell into that category. The overwhelming majority of the approximately 1,000 people who have been convicted or pled guilty to Capitol riot-related federal crimes were not charged with obstruction and will not be affected by the outcome. Still, the decision is likely to be used as fodder for claims by Trump and his Republican allies that the Justice Department has treated the Capitol riot defendants unfairly. They absolutely have. And I'm not talking about the actual Capitol rioters, right? There was only a couple of hundred of those people. We know over 1,400 people have been charged with some sort of crime around January 6th. People that were peacefully protesting. People that were just walking through the Capitol, right? Because there was two sides to this story. Literally two sides to this story. You had a violent mob on one side attacking and fighting with cops. And then on the other side, you had cops just waving people in, people peacefully walking through the building, doing their thing. But the Justice Department didn't differentiate between the two. They just went after just about everybody that was in the Capitol, whether you were on one side or the other side, whether you're on the violent side or the nonviolent side. They went after all of those people. And that's what is wrong with the Justice Department. That's the two-tier justice system. We've been proving this time and time again in my videos with news stories, right? News stories that actually come from the left. And adding that with a little bit of facts and a little bit of reality, we can deduce that, yes, there's a two-tier justice system in this country. All you have to do is look at two people, Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Same charge. Mishandling of classified documents. One gets let off because he's a doddering old man that shouldn't be the president of the United States, right? But he has a poor memory. He's a sympathetic, well-meaning old man with a poor memory. That's the exact quote. The other guy gets charged with espionage, for God's sakes, for taking presidential records home. Which, speaking of, NARA held 2 pallets of those same very documents in a facility in Virginia for 6 months before shipping them down to Mar-a-Lago. So, if they knew that he had classified materials that he shouldn't have, why not go after it then? Why not halt the shipment of those documents down to Mar-a-Lago? Huh? I wonder why. 6 months. That's how long they held on to those documents for. Yeah, that just blows my mind. These people think they are untouchable. These people think just because they're part of the establishment and the DOJ is under their thumb that we're not going to see what actually happened. We're not going to see the facts. That we're not going to say, actually cry foul on this and say, look, there's a two-tier justice system here. You're charging this guy for one thing, and you're not charging this guy for actually something much worse, right? Joe Biden wasn't the president. When he took those documents, he wasn't president. Had been taking classified documents home since the 70s. You can't do that. Then he disseminated that information to his ghostwriter to write a book to make money off of, which he made $8 million off of. That is way worse than a president taking presidential records home when he leaves office, which I may remind you that every single president has done for a very, very long time, probably since the 1700s, right? Probably every single president has taken documents home once he has left office. Probably. But they're only going to charge Donald Trump? Yeah, that's wrong. That's totally wrong. And then charge him with espionage, for God's sakes. It's unclear how the court's decision will affect the case against Trump in Washington, which includes other charges than obstruction. Special counsel Jack Smith has said the charges faced by the former president would not be affected. Trump's case is on hold while the Supreme Court considers a separate case in which Trump is claiming immunity from prosecution. A decision is expected on Monday. Under the ruling issued Friday, dozens of defendants could seek new sentences, asked to withdraw guilty pleas, or have charges dropped. Most defendants convicted of obstruction were also convicted of another felony, so their sentence may not be significantly impacted, if at all. The High Court returned the case of former Pennsylvania police officer Joseph Fisher to a lower court to determine if Fisher can be charged with obstruction. Fisher has been indicted for his role in disrupting Congress's certification of Democratic Joe Biden's Biden's 2020 presidential election victory over Trump. Fisher is among about 350 people who have been charged with obstruction. Some pled guilty to or were convicted of lesser charges. Republicans who have cast the January 6th defendants as victims of political persecution are certain to seize on the ruling to argue the rioters have been unfairly prosecuted by the Justice Department. Trump has embraced January 6th defendants on the campaign trail and floated pardons for the rioters if he wins in November. That is an outright lie. He has said dozens of times at this point that he is going to pardon a lot of the innocent people that were caught up in the January 6th BS. He is not going to pardon anybody that was violent. None of those people get a pardon. Only the people that were nonviolent and still got arrested for that BS, for protesting, got their First Amendment rights violated, got their Fifth Amendment rights violated, right? The vast majority of these people did absolutely nothing wrong on January 6th. Just because there was an official proceeding going on, the cops still opened the doors for those people. The cops opened the doors, let them in. We saw Jacob Chansley was being led around by Capitol police officers all over the place, into Senate chambers, out of Senate chambers, down the halls, all over the damn place. How come they weren't arresting this guy if he was violent, right? If he was obstructing an official proceeding? He wasn't. He was nonviolent. But there is hundreds of people that were nonviolent that got arrested. They're still going after people, for God's sakes. Yes, the DOJ is still devoting a significant portion of their budget to going after January 6th defendants. Still to this day, they're still finding people and arresting people. Like what? That was almost 4 years ago. It was 3.5 years ago. And they're still looking for some of these people? Yeah, nonviolent people. It's outright just insanity. Trump posted on his Truth Social platform shortly after the decision, calling the ruling big news. He shared another message that described the ruling as a massive victory for the J6 political prisoners. It is also likely to slow down cases in a court already clogged with January 6 defendants, as judges are forced to grapple with how to apply the ruling. It's going to be a big mess, said Randall Eliason, a professor at George Washington University Law School and former federal prosecutor in Washington. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the court's opinion, joined by conservative justices Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Clarence Thomas, and by liberal Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, a former federal public defender who also wrote a separate opinion. Wow, I am surprised that Justice Jackson, actually found, right, like, we could see, okay, she's a very liberal person. She's a very liberal justice. And she even sees the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall says the prosecutors, the DOJ prosecutors, went after innocent people on this. They should have never charged these people with this. And you like how the corporate press says, oh, but they're going to use this as fodder to talk about how there's a two-tier justice system. Exactly what I'm doing right now, because they know, right? They're not blind to the facts. They may argue something totally different, but they know reality. They know that they should have never been charged for this. It's prosecutorial misconduct on their part. The public is being misled. The corporate press is lying to everybody, saying that all these 1,400 people are Capitol rioters. That's what they keep calling these people, Capitol rioters. And hang on, you got to differentiate between the two, because most of those people were not rioters, right? We saw the videos. We can see with our eyes, corporate press. We know that, yeah, sure, there may have been about 100, maybe a little bit more people that were actually violent, fighting with cops, tearing down the barriers and all that BS, the stupid shit that they shouldn't have been doing. Right? And we know that when Donald Trump says the political prisoners, he's talking about the people. He's outright said the nonviolent people, he's going to pardon those people. Nonviolent people, right? He's not going to pardon people that were fighting with cops, because that's not what Donald Trump is all about. He even told those people, be peaceful. Peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. He didn't want those people to do that. I mean, what sense does it make, right? Think about this. If you believe that Donald Trump ordered those people to storm the Capitol, right? knowing that we have the U.S. Army, we have the National Guard that would have eventually came in, right? Like, there's no way anybody believed that a mob of just angry people is going to overthrow the government, right? Like, somehow they're going to stop the certification of the Electoral College, right? And Donald Trump is going to stay in office. Nobody really thinks this. That is insane if you do think that an angry mob of people is going to stop the certification. What? Right? So we know that, yeah, they're not going to stop that certification, and Joe Biden's going to be certified as president. Trump knew that as well. Right? So he wouldn't want those people to do that because it's not going to look good on him. Right? There's a lot of people out there, we'll get into a little bit of conspiracy on this, that think that was Antifa that went into that mob and incited those people to go. But, I mean, there's no evidence for that. But that it sounds like something Antifa would do just to make Trump look bad. But there's no evidence for that, right? Like, we haven't seen any evidence. I mean, you got Ray Epps, right? Ray Epps is something totally different. I don't know what's going on with that, right? Like, there was even that viral video of Ray Epps saying, we got to go into the Capitol. And the people, all the people around him were like, no, Fed. Yeah, because those people are sane. Those people know that you can't go in there. You can't break into the freaking Capitol. You can't fight with cops. It doesn't look good. So Donald Trump obviously didn't want the optics of January 6th. We know for a fact that he asked for National Guard to show up. Nancy Pelosi admitted on camera that it's her fault because she denied the National Guard. Well, so did the Mayor Bowser of D.C. said no National Guard. They didn't want the optics. They wanted January 6th to happen. That's what it seems like. By denying the National Guard, by denying more security, it seemed, knowing that there was like 100,000, almost 100,000 people show up to Washington, D.C. on that day. There was thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people. If not, it wasn't 100,000, but it was almost. It was a lot. It was tens of thousands of people. But yeah, that's just insane. If you believe that Donald Trump wanted those people to do that, you, my friend, are living in a dream world. You're delusional, and you need to come out of it. You need to wake up and get out of La La Land and wake up and see the facts. That the Justice Department has been weaponized against the Republicans. That's all there is to it, folks. And that's all I got for this video. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Is this a big win for the January 6th defendants, right? Like, how many sentences are going to be commuted outright? Or how many sentences are going to be reduced? Is Enrique Tarrio's sentence going to be reduced from this? The leader of the Proud Boys. We'll see. He wasn't even in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, and he got 22 freaking years. If that alone isn't evidence enough to see a prosecutorial misconduct on the DOJ's part, I don't know what the hell is. But y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.